You're talking about two grown adults that have moved out of the house, maybe successful in life, maybe have accomplished all these other things, but they get together in partnership, and now they're like two 5-year-olds fighting. It's the perfect opportunity for you to awaken and heal. Is this intimate relationship we have? I thought I was done with this, but the awakenings were real, and the pattern is also real.
Okay, you've done the inner work. You sat in silence, maybe in the darkness, maybe on a mountain, maybe in ceremony. You've had real insights. Real insights. Moments where something genuinely shifted inside of you. And then you come home, and within 2 days, you're in the same argument with the person you love the most. That doesn't sound like awakening to me.
I think I can relate to that, Mark. I've sat with people in ceremony who've had the most profound openings, genuine moments of complete clarity and love pouring out of them. And then I've watched them go home, return to their spouse, their marriages, their partnerships. And then 2 weeks later, they're like confused and ashamed. I thought I was done with this, but the awakenings were real and the pattern is also real. So both things can be true at the same time.
Through moment mindfulness, they have this powerful awakening experience, and then, like you said, 2 weeks later, they get in this giant fight with their partner. But by the end of this, you're going to understand why insight doesn't automatically change relationship patterns, and why that's not a failure of your awakening. It's actually a doorway.
I know you've been teaching us moment mindfulness, and that's how I was introduced to you, is through this amazing thought watching process where we disidentify with being that thought or the thinking in our head. So what's the difference though between knowing the voice is there and actually being able to become free from it?
So this is really a two-step process. The first step is disidentifying from the voice in your head. The next step in the process is every time these emotional reactions come up, now we have a tool that we can use to go break that apart and see what's really going on inside of us. And that's what this is really all about. So the awakening is one thing, but then there's another step of work that needs to be done.
Well said. I say the same thing all the time. The ceremony is just the beginning of the work that's needed. Now the next step is the rest of the ceremony. I completely relate to that. So what does it actually take then to stop doing it? So I do my moment mindfulness practice. I catch myself observing these thoughts that are just coming to me, start to realize that they're not me. And then now I wait for these opportunities to be reacted or triggered. But let's say I'm in the middle of an argument Sunday night at 9 o'clock, and sometimes you just can't stop your reaction. What do I do now?
Relationships happen in real time under pressure with history. So if it's Sunday night and you're having an argument with your partner or your spouse, and the emotional trigger for that is coming from your childhood, because the emotional brain learned that triggering during childhood emotional learning in the primitive part of the brain. If I react, it's about me, it's not about you.
When I'm looking at my partner and they just said something to trigger, that is a big thing. I see the same thing, Mark, in ceremony where the medicine separates you from that voice. And you can see that this pattern is actually happening. You're not in control of it. It's just this automatic thing that comes up. So you get to see the ego at work. And sometimes this is first time that they even know that they have an ego. I ask people, hey, listen to the voice in your head. They're like, what voice in my head? What are you talking about? It's just me thinking. A lot of people, I would say most people, are so identified with their thoughts and their thinking that they don't even know that it is not them. So seeing is just the beginning of this. And like you said, the next step is start to realize, oh, this came from my childhood, or this came from my mom. In my case, I've linked my reaction, most of my triggers, back to my relationship with my father. So that would be a great question to ask. Even if I can't stop it in the moment, later on, maybe a couple hours later, I'm sitting with a disagreement or I'm sitting with a trigger that I got, I could ask myself, okay, how does this relate to my relationship in childhood with my dad?
This is where Rochelle and I have common ground, because in ceremony, when you take plant medicine, you turn off the default mode network, which is the ego. When they do moment mindfulness, they are also separated from their their ego. So this separation is extremely important. And then you realize this thing we call ego is all about survival, because the ego wants you to die so I can live. The thing that's keeping us from a completely awakened, enlightened life is our need to survive.
So survival is the antithesis of our liberation, of our freedom.
When you move in and you take up housekeeping with another person, that part of the brain identifies that partner as the parent. But it only happens when the other person crosses a certain emotional barrier.
Oh my goodness. So you're talking about two grown adults, maybe have accomplished all these other things, but they get together in partnership. And now they're like two 5-year-olds fighting. Everything you're talking about is because we are unconscious. What's the most important thing we have to do, Mark?
Most important thing we have to do is we have to find a way to wake up. And people don't like to hear that. There's a lot of different ways of going at this, but it boils down to the fact that the brain is a gigantic, enormous survival machine trying to predict what's going to happen next.
Oh my God, that would be like if one of your parents was domineering and controlling, or like you didn't get a lot of freedom. You're literally looking at your spouse as that person that's trying to control you and domineer. I'll never be free of this. And that's crazy, because I would say that most spouses do not want to control the other person at all. If that other spouse is feeling that way, the unicorn is avoiding being dominated and controlled, then that would be crazy. And then the lion is chasing after them saying, you've rejected me, validate me. So they're getting more and more excitable and maybe even argumentative because they want that validation reflected. What a mess.
What you're referring to is the fact that this is not an argument about the dishes or tone of voice or whatever it is. That underneath the surface, there's an old pattern about wounds, about being controlled or abandoned or feeling unseen. And that's what you're referring to. And I call that the dance of the lion and the unicorn. Two people, those circles are the limbic system. You can see that when the lion gets angry, the unicorn says, oh no, here we go again. I need to avoid the conflict. That avoidance looks like rejection, like nobody cares to the lion, and that makes them more angry, and it goes around and around like that. This basic dance has been now borne out in research. It's called demand withdrawal. The lion is the demander, and the unicorn is the withdrawer. Goal is not to be a better lion or a better unicorn. These are unconscious patterns. The goal is an awakening. What both people don't understand is these two people are struggling with automatic, deeply unconscious childhood emotional patterns, and it's not meant to hurt or damage the other person. They're trying to protect themselves.
Wow. I mean, when you say it like that, Mark, that gives me so much more compassion for my partner. It's like an understanding now. They really are just trying to protect themselves. So that makes me have so much more love and compassion for them.
Your partner was raised in a violent, abusive family. Every time you raise your voice, even if it's in excitement, he's going to experience the threat of that abuse. He may be 6'4" and a ton of muscles, but the little boy inside of him is going sideways, trying to figure out what the heck do I do now? And you will have no clue that's going on with this person.
Wow. That makes all the sense in the world. So it's like knowing can trigger you or hold this transformation more than this intimate partner. It's like you just said, it's the perfect opportunity for you to awaken and heal. Wow. Love all of that. I see so much reward in our couples workshop and retreats that we do. Doing plant medicine with couples, because I watch two people sit across from each other and they get to witness themselves in the state of pure love, because the medicine is away the ego, and they stop looking at each other as enemies, and they can look at each other through these eyes of really what they are, which is their teachers, which is their lovers, their partners, and then their mirrors. So it's really amazing, profound. I've seen it so many times of being able to reconcile all that hurt and pain, and it just turns to love in these ceremony workshops. Wow.
The universe has sent you a teacher. It's the person you're living with. And if you can't take that in, you're not ready for personal growth. So what bridges the gap between inner insight and relational change is when you can stand in the midst of it and see what it is and where it's coming from. We have developed the muscle we need to stand in the storm and realize it's not a storm after all. And when I can do that, and I look at you, do, I'm suddenly filled with compassion because I don't want that little girl
Yes.
to feel rejected anymore. I am not going to be that person no matter what.
Wow. You just make me want to call the person right now, be as supportive and loving as I possibly can, because I see that everything what you just said is the absolute truth. So when the lion and the unicorn are getting locked into this, you said that they're seeing each other as the parent. What is the actual moment when that pattern can break? When they go unconscious, what is something that you can recommend for people to do?
First of all, it would be helpful if you knew if you were a lion and a unicorn. If you're a lion, your issue is basically around feeling rejected. If you're a unicorn, your issue is around conflict and feeling pressured and controlled. Okay, if you've got that much now, then the next day you can think, okay, when you're rational again, you can just ask the question, okay, I reacted last night. How is that related to my childhood? And if you know about rejection or conflict avoidance, you probably know which parent it was. And then don't try to answer the question. We can't analyze this. This will come to you as an insight, a sudden realization, and we will get our answer. You only have to do that 2 or 3 times before you're free of the pattern.
This is beautiful, Mark. So, as you were stating, these are greatest teachers are intimate partnerships. And really, I think if I were to summarize what really relates to like the moment mindfulness and what you've been teaching us is that our mind is our enemy. And this untrained reactive mind is really what's creating all this suffering. And, Nietzsche, who was a pretty famous philosopher and teacher, he said, I met the enemy and it is us. So we can go back in, take responsibility for how we are perceiving this. And I can just see this could be an instant change. I mean, I've been able to apply this in my life and I have already seen a pretty remarkable shift. So thank you for taking this work and making it available to everyone. And, you don't have to be this great spiritual being, although it's kind of funny because spirituality is everything you're doing. We are spiritual beings. So anything we're doing is spiritual work. But you don't have to be a yogi. You don't have to go to dark retreats. You don't have to do all this stuff. You don't even have to go to a medicine ceremony. You just don't. Thank you for making this so accessible. Oh, I love all of this. I love all of it. So if you're curious about what ceremony can look like in the context of couples work or with plant medicine, please reach out to me. This isn't that the medicine doesn't heal the relationship, but it does create the conditions where you finally can and get to see each other in a whole new way. And so thank you so much for this work you're doing. And I'm so grateful to be able to work with you. This is something that I believe wholeheartedly that we are here right now is to share this light with everyone that is open to it and to let them know there is liberation available. And it is something that's in reach for every person. You don't have to go to the jungle. You don't have to go to the ashram. You can do this right from your living room. Bye. Thank you.